It's crunch time for the Chicago Public Schools, a $1.1 billion deficit, a breakdown in talks with the Chicago Teachers Union, and a long series of discussions in Springfield that are leading to an unresolved budget. I'm Mike Fouché, publisher of Aldertrack, and this is our Chicago Influencer series, where we speak with policymakers and implementers about how city government impacts the work they do. Today I'm talking with Wendy Katten, director of Chicago Public School parent advocacy group Raise Your Hand, and a CPS parent with an 11-year background in social services. Raise Your Hand's mission to help parents become advocates for their children has thrusted the group into a prominent position, sometimes mediating between teachers and CPS management. Wendy, it almost seems as if this past month has been a period of reckoning for CPS. All the problems with the budget, a series of mayors and boards that have managed the schools into a huge budget hole, and the teachers have broken off contract negotiations, and Springfield really has almost no sympathy for our plight. Are there any good actors in this system that parents can turn to and rely on?
I think a lot of parents are turning to one another and creating solutions like our group has done together. And I do actually think that despite all of the uncertainty, I'm hearing that people feel hopeful that the mayor and the teachers union are working together, even though we have a bit of a snag right today. I think there's been more cooperation, and from what we've been hearing, I'm still hopeful that this will all get resolved.
There's been a lot of talk coming from Springfield about forcing CPS into bankruptcy as part of some kind of a deal and some sort of structural reform, maybe on the same level of what went on in 1995.
Right.
Does that bode well for parents and students?
No, not at all. Given that there are many solutions, that if all of these parties would actually work together and we've suggested CPS look at cutting some of their contracts. They have a ton of contracts, over $1 billion. They just approved more at the board meeting Wednesday. We've asked them to slow down on their spending. We need revenue from the state, and we would like the city to look at reforming the TIF program. And so there are ways to deal with this. It's just a matter of seeing if we have the leadership who can do it. So no, bankruptcy is a terrible idea. We've seen declining enrollment for years. We need some faith in this system, and that means leaders who will actually work on solutions.
So since 1995, the Chicago City Council has literally had no impact whatsoever on the board makeup or bonding or budgeting of the Chicago Public Schools. Mm-hmm. It's been entirely been between the mayor and the board. Right. Is that the right kind of structure? It's, I think, the only organization other than CHA where the council has no input whatsoever. Is that the right kind of solution? Or should city council have more of an impact on what happens?
We'd rather see an elected school board than any of that. We think that regular people should have a voice in controlling and in the policies and spending of the district. So I'm not sure that the city council is the answer to improving our school system. We need educators who know education policy. Our district is being run through a business model that shouldn't be applied to education. We need an education model for our school system, and that's going to be a big problem whether we have the city council or not.
So the Ernst & Young discussion document on CPS that was released this past week was pretty damning to all sides. Mm-hmm. There really wasn't a group that didn't have any kind of responsibility. Yeah. But who in all of those, the teachers, the management, trying to think of other stakeholders, the mayors, who holds the most responsibility for how CPS has gotten to where it is today?
I really think it's all parties. I think that that's why this budget solution document we put out really looks at the state, the city, and CPS and citizens. Citizens have to support new revenue. and sometimes our elected officials aren't doing that because of voters. And so it's really I think, while we're saying there can be cuts, there has been overspending, and we think that the board is not accountable, they're making decisions not really based on CPS's point of view. It's from it's the mayor controls the schools. And so I think we're all responsible, our elected officials and citizens. And we need people to understand the biggest issue really is the way we're running the schools is basically all wrong. And so, I think all parties are at fault. It's not one group.
So with the giant budget deficit and structural deficit over the years, should Chicagoans just grit their teeth and take a property tax increase?
I don't think that should be the only solution at all. Like we said, we need state revenue. Our state is last in the country in terms of what they kick in. We need city. The city can shut down some of the TIF districts. We have, I think, 6 in this ward where I live. There's money there. We're a wealthy state. We're not funding education properly, and we need people who vote at the board level to spend their money wisely. Like I keep saying, you don't put an addition on the house when you can't pay your heating bill, meaning we're opening tons of new schools at a time when we don't need them. That's some ideological viewpoint about school choice that doesn't meet the reality of the finances that we have and the enrollment that we have. So it's complicated.
So I have a son in CPS. Yeah. What would you tell me is the bright spot? Why should I feel good about Chicago Public Schools?
Well, as you probably know, there are many great things happening at the school level. And I think a lot of parents that we work with, we're here because we believe in our schools, and many of them are working really well despite some bad policies, some, poor management. So at the school level, there are many great things happening. And I think this is a turning point where hopefully we can have some structural changes that will improve things. But at the school level, we wouldn't have a growing organization if people didn't feel things were working at their own school.